子供の遊びじゃない。
10代って案外冷たいんだ。おかしいわね。
一体どうなってんだよこの学園は。なんだこの感覚。
まさか僕を忘れてはいまいね。本当に忘れてしまったのかい。この僕の瞳を。君は永遠に僕のものだ。君だけここから返すわけにはいかない。
必ず助けるからな。
If you're a GX fan and have yet to see this season subbed, go out of your way and do it. Entering Year 3, the Academy continues to evolve as more students are introduced to the main cast, with some being way cooler than others. Johan takes an interest in Judai and strikes up an almost immediate kinship. Other characters entering the fray are Amon Gammon, Austin O'Brien, and Jim Crocodile, along with the not-evil Pompadour-having instructor, Cobra, introducing a dueling method called Duel. Cobra has his first exhibition using Johan and Judai in front of the rest of the students. He then reveals that these duels are to challenge the students in order to become better, and the weak will be expelled from school. Secretly, Cobra is harnessing dueling energy in a secret lab on the island, with O'Brien acting as his mercenary. Amon contacts people off-island, noting that something is fishy with the two, and will investigate further. Cobra orders O'Brien to get as much dueling energy from Judai as possible, and by any means necessary, which motivates Judai to duel a little more aggressively to rescue Sho while he's dangling from a tree. During the duel, O'Brien remembers his father's advice and allows Sho to be safe to continue a more honorable duel. He still follows through with the mission and allows Judai to win. This results in both O'Brien and Judai being sent to the infirmary due to exhaustion. Not long after, Jim duels Kenzan and is able to claim victory, but they also collapse. Cobra notices that the protagonists are starting to catch on to how weird the duels are, but is worried about Amon in particular. He concocts a plan that will kill Amon after he finishes a duel. He encounters him in the school and threatens to kick him out of the academy if Amon does not duel. Amon accepts, but smartly hosts a party that has other students duel for a bedazzled duel disc, which causes the duel energy to gather faster. Cobra notices this and cannot increase the energy as it would kill the other students. Manjome duels Amon above the sea, where they both stand on individual glass cases being airlifted by helicopters, with the loser being dumped down below. The Kaiba is strong in Manjome. Amon is able to attain victory, but they both fall victim to the energy drain. Amon is the least affected because he's built different, but feigns exhaustion. Because of the party fiasco, the school infirmary needs to use the gym to house all the ill students. This time, the gang act reasonably and demand to see the headmaster to put a stop to the duels, but he is conveniently on a business trip. Like responsible adults, Kronos and Napoleon push the task back onto the group of teenagers with attitude. After Manjome enters a coma, Amon informs the gang that he had been tracking Cobra and O'Brien to a lab since they were acting sus and wants them to investigate it further. Speaking of O'Brien, he confronts Cobra but is sent through a trap chute. Cobra mocks him and tells him to die a dog's death. I had no idea this season was going to be so damn good. Judai and the gang rush off to the forest in search of the lab and split up to look for clues. Judai is separated from Sho and Johan, where he duels an instructor that challenges Judai's naivety about duels being fun as a representation of what life can bring onto you should you face it with a child's viewpoint. I would dive into this further, but that's a different video for a different time. Simultaneously, Asuka is separated from Jim and Kenzan, where she is in a trap hole that constantly fills up with water whenever Judai deals damage to his opponent. After Jim and his croc companion save Asuka, Judai closes out the duel. Because of the amount of dueling energy released, Judai blacks out, but he is awakened by his new bestie. After making some noise, a hunter takes possession of one of the duel spirits accompanying Johan. He takes on the hunter and uses the power of friendship to defeat him. The rest of the gang are able to meet up with the exhausted Johan and Judai to continue making their way through the building to find Cobra. As all of the previous events unfolded, Amon pulls a Tom Cruise and Mission Impossibles his way through the forest and building while planting bomb-shaped cards and ordering his strike team to be on the ready. Amon pulls up, says "F Cobra, this is Cobra Kai," and engages in hand-to-hand combat. This season is awesome. Cobra gains the upper hand and uses the power of the Bacta tank in the middle of the room to force push Amon onto the wall, puts his shirt back on, then smirks at Judai while taking the elevator up. Speaking of the gang, they had been rushing through the building as Amon had set off the explosives and needed to escape before being trapped forever. O'Brien reappears to help Judai and the gang through. They make their way to the top of the building where the heliport is, and Judai prepares to duel Cobra. Cobra takes control of the duel using reptiles and questions Judai regarding his viewpoint on duels. He claims that he has not yet dueled with anything on the line and cannot understand what it is like to fear losing anything because of this. It is revealed that Cobra had an adopted son that was hit and killed in an accident, with Cobra seeking any way to bring him back. He finds an arm that appeals to the grief in his heart to gather dueling energy for its revival, and offers Cobra the chance to see his son again. Amon is watching while stuck to the wall and is being approached by the Arm. The Arm appeals to the darkness in his heart by sharing that it knows that Amon was adopted and in the shadows of his little brother. It further reveals that Amon was close to murdering the baby before refraining himself, and that darkness can help both the Arm and Amon achieve their respective goals. Judai has no retort for Cobra, but Johan intervenes by explaining that Judai has to carry the weight of expectations on his shoulder. He further says that Judai duels for everyone present, the students, the faculty, and his duel spirits, because should he lose, all of them are gone. This gives Judai the necessary confidence to Destiny draw his out, then summons Magma Neos to close out the game. The Arm is able to maintain a physical form and disposes of Cobra by having him hallucinate seeing his adopted son, which ultimately causes Cobra to walk towards his doom. A blinding beam of light then surrounds Judai, the gang, and the school, and teleports them into a different dimension.
ここは地球上のどこでもない、どこか別の世界だと考えた方が妥当だ。
Everyone awakens to a new dimension that has the physical presence of the dual spirits. The gang and school leadership try to keep the rest of the students calm, but they realize they have limited medical supplies and food storage, meaning that they have 1 week to survive and return to their dimension before everything dries up. Amon was also teleported and hides the Arm in the school library. This is smart as Yu-Gi-Oh players do not read, so they would never check the library. We also learned that the disc dual bracelets are still attached and that any life point lost results in life energy being lost as well. A long-haired stranger returns from the desert and reveals himself as Misawa. He had been studying with the professor from season 2, and an experiment caused him to be teleported to the dual spirit dimension well before the rest of the school. Misawa pleads that Judai bring everyone back home safely before being sedated for treatment. While everyone is trying to get at least one normal night of sleep since the disc duels began, Ray and a boy named Martin make their way to the restroom. They are both attacked, with Martin going missing and Ray being critically injured. Judai rushes her back to the school nurse and are informed that they do not have the appropriate medicine to treat her. They are all made aware of a nearby ship and confront Kronos about taking action instead of standing idly by. Ultimately, Judai, Johan, Amon, Jim, and O'Brien all travel to seek the ship out in hopes that they can salvage anything of use. Amon does not bring attention to the ship belonging to him and deletes any and all info on his secret mission, while the rest of the team get the emergency provisions, medkits, and available futons. Back at the school, the students are becoming restless with the little food they receive. Manjome guards the food supply to ensure that no one enters, while Sho, Asuka, and Kenzan keep watch for any dangerous monsters. Misawa is working as quickly as he can to create a formula to help teleport everyone back to their world. The Arm, however, has made Martin its host and begins infecting the entire school by turning them into zombie dueling monsters. We still need some silliness in this dark season, and we will gladly take it with what's to come. Judai and the gang are able to return to the school, but are immediately taken away by Asuka and Kenzan to avoid the dueling zombies. The gang try to hurry to Ray, but are soon cornered by Manjome and Sho. Flame Wingman is able to blow a hole for their escape, with Judai and Johan steadfast in going to the infirmary. They soon discover that the nurse has also become a dueling zombie, with Judai needing to save Ray as quickly as possible to give her the medication. Side note, the nurse? I can fix her. Ray is able to receive the medication, and the remaining members of the gang and students try to eat their portions. 3 in particular make a ruckus about it not being enough, with O'Brien keeping them in line. The 3 students are understandably in survival mode since they don't duel for their lives for 3 straight years like Judai and company, so they attempt to raid the food storage that the zombies took over. It does not end well for them. The next morning, Martin uses the school speaker to offer a simple trade. He would give the students food for their power generator. Jim refuses as he believes they could get the generator to work, so Judai solves this problem like every other one in this series. Duel for it. Martin accepts and has the 3 rogue and hungry students duel O'Brien, Jim, and Johan. The students are borderline rioting as they demand that the trio not lose so they can eat, but O'Brien quickly deduces that this is a stall tactic. Napoleon is getting antsy and goes back into the building to find Martin, with Judai and Ray giving chase. O'Brien finishes his duel immediately and exposes the ruse as he feels that Martin is after something else. Jim and Johan concur and quickly turn the tides in order to provide aid. Napoleon, Ray, and Judai are able to find Martin. Amon is also there, but he is hiding behind a hill of sand, much like Shaq hides behind a tree. The Arm reveals itself to everyone and is able to unearth the same burial site from Season 1 to go after the Phantom Beasts. It only took another 80 episodes for the Goth God cards to make their reappearance. Neat. Martin goes underground to find the 3 Phantasm cards with Judai and Amon in pursuit. Judai is held up by the dueling zombies, but is hesitant to do any damage to either Manjome or Sho. Ray and Napoleon are able to return to the gang to inform them of Martin and the Phantasms, while O'Brien is able to see an attempted message from their dimension come through. Misawa is able to connect the transmission, and the gang are told they can get transported back with the help of Rainbow Dragon. Pegasus is on his way to the tablet that was found thanks to Deus Ex Machina. The physicist from Season 2 informs Misawa and the gang that they need to produce an insanely high volume of dueling energy in order to bring back attack the school. The key to producing the energy is through Rainbow Dragon, with the headmaster and Pegasus going to the digging site. Johann understands that he will need to risk his life to bring back everyone, but he agrees to the duel. The headmaster and Pegasus prepare to excavate the portion of the tablet that they need to create the card, but the woman from the strike team makes her reappearance. She threatens to blow up the entire site to make sure Amon remains in the other dimension to become king. Alright guys, I have no clue what kind of deadass she is, but she is one. She hardly puts up a fight, and Pegasus is able to create the Rainbow Dragon card for Johann to use. Concurrently, Amon confronts the Arm to discover what their endgame is. The Arm flips the question on him, with Amon challenging the Arm to a duel. The Arm tells Amon that he will not be able to achieve his goals without overcoming the god in his heart, but invites him to join in on the Arm's goal to see what they can accomplish together. The Arm is able to successfully retrieve the 3 phantasms. Judai arrives too little too late to see that the cards have been retrieved, and takes an underground passage that leads to the headmaster's office. Daitokuji informs Judai that everyone is at the indoor tennis court, and Judai rushes off. He still gets cornered by dueling zombies, but is rescued by Napoleon. He tells Judai to take the underground passages to make way to the tennis court, and to please save his son while he holds off the zombies. Johann and Ryu prepare for their duel, and agree to go all out. Kenzan and O'Brien hold off the dueling zombies outside so the duel can continue uninterrupted. Ryu pins Johann down with his cyber dragons, while Johann tries to gather enough crystal beasts on his field. The dueling energy is so intense, it blows up the technology in the 2 different dimensions, but the necessary card is sent through the portal. Mios is able to break a hole through the tennis court, and everyone is able to escape through the underground passage. Simultaneously, Martin prepares the stage for the final confrontation with Judai. He uses the speaker to offer the duel. The Arm wins, and he keeps Judai. Judai wins, and he releases the zombies. If Judai fails to arrive at the stage in 30 minutes, the Arm will kill everyone that is zombified. Judai knows that he has to go, but Masawa offers everyone hope. The Phantasms and Rainbow Dragon can cause enough dueling energy to transport everyone back to their dimension. The gang split up to get Judai and Johann to their destinations, while also providing cover for them from the zombies. Chaos ensues as everyone gives their best efforts to protect Judai and Johann, with O'Brien actually using his gun and explosions going off everywhere. Kenzan activates Jurassic Impact and has meteors destroy everyone. This season is batshit insane, and it is awesome. Johann risks his life to grab Rainbow Dragon from a giant monster, and Rainbow Dragon accepts Johann. With the card in hand, Johann and O'Brien rush back to Judai.
はつかない。
お前は誰だ？カノーマルタンじゃないだろう。プロフェッサーコブラもお前が操っていたんだな。
10代。
ヨハン、オブライエン。
戻ってきたぜ、10代。
The Arm becomes irate with someone else getting Judai's attention, with the goal becoming eliminating Johann first. Johann joins the fray, and it becomes a 2v1 duel. The Arm is able to summon all 3 phantasms in the duel, but Johann and Judai answer by summoning Rainbow Dragon and Chaos Neos. Even with their new power, the Arm fuses all 3 phantasms to create Phantasm Armatile. Ray has enough of the BS and demands that the Arm release Martin as its host. The Arm agrees, and notes that it was able to complete its physical form after all the dueling energy that had been gathered.
Asaka, 僕を忘れてはいまいね。本当に忘れてしまったのかい？この僕の瞳を。
そんなバカな。
やっと思い出してくれたんだね。君だけはここから返すわけにはいかない。僕の元に来るんだ、10代。
Phantasm Armatile attempts to take down Judai, but Johann takes over the duel using Rainbow Dragon's effect to match Armatile's attack. He tells Judai to take care of the rest, and asks Rainbow Dragon to guide everyone back to safety. After flashes of light, everyone is able to return back to their dimension.
やったぜヨハン。ヨハン？ヨハンは？ヨハン！
A week has passed since the event. Martin and Napoleon have reconciled and agree to spend more time as father and son, while the students and faculty return to normal. The gang are all gathered at Osiris Red, but Judai is not present. They all acknowledge that he is still reeling from the aftermath of not being able to save Johann. Asuka confirms by recalling a brief conversation with Judai and the guilt that he feels being so evident. O'Brien points out that it is entirely possible that Judai was the objective for Yubel. With that, we receive a massive exposition dump from the headmaster. Judai as a child had a strong connection to the duel spirit Yubel. He would often duel neighborhood kids, but the kids would have misfortunes happen to them. One in particular experiencing an immediate collapse and illness, some having nightmares or frights. The Kyber Corp space program sent out Judai's artwork for Neos and the Yubel card out into space, where they were each affected differently from the exposure. While wallowing in his sorrow, Wing Karibo goes to Judai. At the same time, the gang are informed that a portal to the dual spirit dimension has opened, and everyone assumes that Judai is on his way to attempt to save Johan. They assume correctly, and Judai tries to convince people to stay back. What he doesn't realize is that his friends will go to war for him. They all summon their ace monsters to create enough dual energy to go back to the previous dimension, with Kronos, Amon's Dede, Edo, and Ryu being caught in the action. Judai, Sho, Manjome, Asuka, Fubuki, Misawa, Jim, and O'Brien all wake up in the dimension, but it doesn't resemble anything close to the one they were just in a week ago. Misawa attempts to calculate what could have happened, but Judai is thinking recklessly and runs off ahead of everyone. He falls into the side of a building where dual monsters enslave weaker ones to complete odds and ends. O'Brien, Misawa, and the returning Amazonas all catch up with Judai. Judai can't stand seeing the abuse for the weaker dual monsters and challenges Harpy's brother, now retconned to be Sky Scout, to a duel. What Judai learns during the duel is that a loss results in death. In a kill or be killed situation, Judai is forced to kill Sky Scout. Sky Scout laments that he never pushed through his low status and asks that Judai fix the strong-weak system by becoming the new Supreme King. The gang are able to move forward, but Misawa stays behind with the Amazonas to figure out the mystery of the others that have also been transported to this dimension. That or Snoo Snoo. His blush gives it away. The gang go through the giant gate and discover a lifeless town. A comet is passing by that causes some distress to Jim, but he plays it off. O'Brien encourages everyone to act carefully, so naturally Judai chases after a kid and duels another monster. Judai goes from anxious to desperate as he tells everyone else to stay away from the duel. After Judai is able to defeat the duel monster, the rest of the gang understand the gravity of the duels. Freed arrives and hurries to take the kid away from danger, then encourages the gang to follow. More monsters show up and see that a soldier of Zur's had been killed. While in the underground hideout, everyone discovers that the town they were just in had been ransacked by creatures from the Dark World with all warriors kidnapped. Judai asks if Johan was captured but gets no real answer. One of the warriors returns and with his dying breath describes where the captives are. Judai selfishly asks if he had seen Johan instead of allowing the man more time to his family for the goodbyes. Desperation begins to turn into obsession for Judai as he wants to seek out the prison camp. O'Brien and Asuka try to stop him, but fail as Judai rushes off on his own. Freed uses this to his advantage to guide the remaining townsfolk out of the hideout and out of the way of the monsters from the Dark World. Judai is able to find the prison camp. He finds a Johan lookalike and is told that the warriors were moved to a different camp. Zur and his warriors arrive, taunt Judai by saying that they laid a trap for any remaining warriors, and strikes down the lookalike. Judai, now full with anger, challenges him. Manjome, Asuka, Sho, Kenzan, and Fubuki are beginning to catch up to Judai, but are captured by Zur's soldiers. Zur gains the upper hand in the duel, but notices that Judai is beginning to feel despair. He taunts Judai by stating that he will be killed last after ending his friends' lives one by one. Freed is able to return in time to aid Judai in the duel by sacrificing his life to deal a lethal blow to Zur. Freed attempts to give Judai words of encouragement, but the gang are each marked with a negative emotion as they see another person pass away in front of them. Judai swears that he will save Freed's comrades and Johan, no matter what sacrifice or the cost of his life. In a state of fury, Judai travels uphill to take down more of the Dark World army by himself while everyone else begins to fall into their negative emotions. He returns with news that Johan may be at the next fortress, but Manjome rightfully tries to talk sense into Judai by saying they don't know for sure and should take a moment. Judai dismisses this and moves forward with Jim and O'Brien being the only two that keep pace with him. They let Judai know that everyone is behind, but Judai again seems dismissive as he asks the pair to go fetch them. Jim and O'Brien are genuinely shocked at this response and attempt to remind Judai that they are all a team that need one another in a foreign world. They ask that he wait for them, but Judai again rushes off. The others continue to fall to the negative emotions by actively talking down Judai, something that had never been done in this series up to this point, and are beaten, then captured by Braun's army. The only one to not have this fate is Sho, as he was caught farther behind. Two soldiers are able to track him down, but he is saved by Jim and O'Brien. Back at the fortress, Judai is confronted by Mad King Braun and they engage in a duel. Braun then reveals that he had captured Judai's friends. Manjome is the first to wake up, then he rightfully reprimands Judai for making so many selfish decisions without considering the others. After an attack from Judai connects and deals damage to Braun's life points, he takes Manjome's life to begin creating the spell card, Super Polymerization, and reveals that each time Judai attacks, one of his friends will die. Judai is crushed at hearing the news as the remaining members of the gang will be sacrificed for the card. Braun forces Judai's monsters to attack, causing Asuka, Kenzan, and Fubuki to die. Judai, now feeling completely helpless, succumbs to his fury and flashes his Sharingan. He punishes Braun with relentless attacks and ultimately smites him with Neos. With Braun's dying breath, he informs Judai that Johan is dead. Sho, Jim, and O'Brien approach Judai in disbelief that everyone has died. Judai confirms, but notes that he at least avenged them. Sho, still overwhelmed with his negative emotions, tells Judai the harsh truth. That is just lip service and vengeance will not bring back the dead. He damns Judai for all of his selfish actions and runs away. Jim and O'Brien chase after him, but O'Brien gives Judai a look of disgust by saying, "A now broken Judai is overcome with the grief of losing everyone despite all of his efforts. Inside of his heart, the faces of his friends begin to fade away and a new voice begins telling him that he needs more power. When Judai asks who it is, the Supreme King reveals himself. An undisclosed amount of time in this dimension has passed. Sho is now wandering aimlessly and has thrown away his duel disk. He vowed to never involve himself with anyone else, but his compassion forces him to save Ojama Yellow from Doomdozer. When it seems like the end for him, Cyber Dragon destroys the monster, revealing Ryu has also been wandering not too far behind. Sho wakes up to a small campfire with Ryu asking if he was still thinking of Judai. He doesn't wait for a response from Sho and begins to leave camp. In tears, Sho asks what he should do, but Ryu simply says that Sho has already decided. Although he leaves, Sho notices that his duel disk is in front of him. With a newfound resolve, Sho retraces his steps and vows to watch over Judai to the end. Ryu continues moving with Edo, but at a faster pace as he knows his time is also running out. Jim and O'Brien are able to save an elderly man and boy from some jabronis and are informed that duelist hunters have been tasked by the Supreme King to hunt down duelists. They are imprisoned in the castle with no one having ever returned alive. Jim and O'Brien speculate that Judai may have been taken there. In a flashback, it was revealed that Judai had used Manjome, Kenzan, Asuka, and Fubuki's duel discs as tombstones for a makeshift burial and presented empty. The duo believe they need to hurry before he gets into any danger when the comet that Jim had seen earlier has him say out loud that it is following him. The pair then make way to the castle after some directions from a nearby village. They run into a deranged imp that speaks exclusively in Japanese, but tells the duo that he is the only one in the castle and that the Supreme King and his army have already traveled south. Jim wastes no time in washing the scrub, but see the destruction of the nearby village. The destruction also includes the wooden duel disc of the boy that they had previously saved. One of the soldiers of the village is able to mouth something to Jim. Jim does the exact opposite and directly challenges the Supreme King. O'Brien is able to provide a quick escape for the duo so they can gather their thoughts. Jim says that the Supreme King is definitely Judai, but will bring him back. He reflects on a prophecy he was given as a child. One day, he will need to save a dear friend and will make a miracle happen. Jim and O'Brien head back to the castle with Jim challenging the Supreme King once more. The battle begins. The Supreme King reveals that he likes the Fallen Hero theme and summons evil heroes to begin attacking Jim. The blast reveals Jim's Ori Kalkamai, where he then uses the power to peer into Judai's heart. His psyche continues to replay the duels with the Professor and Cobra while also rewatching the death of everyone, leaving Judai broken. The Supreme King is the strongest voice in his heart, but Jim tries pushing through the darkness to reach out to Judai and continues dueling to bring him back. Jim reduces the Supreme King's life points in hopes that it will help his voice be heard by Judai. Despite his best efforts, the Supreme King summons Dark Gaia and wins the duel. With his dying breath, Jim pleads with O'Brien to help Judai return from the darkness, but O'Brien is too scared after witnessing the events and flees. The Supreme King allows him to go, believing that he is weak. Ryu and Edo gather information from some of the Supreme King's army and are able to make headway to the fortress where everyone is being held captive. O'Brien tries to hide after the duel, but Sho coincidentally is there after having watched the duel and is curious to see what O'Brien does next. O'Brien saves villagers from the might of the Supreme King and is asked to help the captives. After some hesitation, he is given his duel disc and still tries to hide. It isn't until he sees how the villagers are being treated in the camp that he musters the courage to defeat the monster in charge. He makes his way to the fortress and meets up with Ryu and Edo to continue their push against the Supreme King. Ryu and Edo duel some of the Supreme King's men to give O'Brien the chance to challenge him. O'Brien is still full of fear, but knows he has to fight. He explains that the power he now has is from everyone that has been imprisoned believing in him and his ability. The Supreme King retorts that he's nothing more than a loser. The two go back and forth in the duel with O'Brien needing a miracle to make a comeback. Jim uses the last of his spirit to help O'Brien draw an out to the Supreme King's trap, which forces him to use Super Poly to create Malicious Fiend. His monster and Volcanic Dune clash, with O'Brien losing his remaining life points, but not his will to fight. O'Brien charges through the blast and uses his card in the graveyard, Volcanic Counter, to deal equal damage to the Supreme King, resulting in his death as well. O'Brien is able to call out to Judai and bring him back from the darkness. Ryu declares the Supreme King dead and his army flees after seeing the red light come from his quarters. The following morning, Judai is able to awaken and learns that Jim and O'Brien were indeed killed during their duels with him. Edo tries to calm him down by saying it was the darkness from the Supreme King and that he should focus on saving Johan. Judai collapses from the high fever that he accrued from the events. Simultaneously, Amon reappears in a hidden cave with a massive door heavily locked by chains in front of him. It is revealed that he gathered all 5 Exodia pieces that Yubel abandoned during their duel. It is also revealed that he has the arm that took possession of Martin and is ready to become a devil. While waiting for Judai to wake up, Ryu and Edo see that Kronos and the woman associated with Amon are running away from some monsters. The pair are able to save them and go over the events with Kronos. At night, Edo approaches the woman and gives her the locket that she had dropped. The woman reveals that she loves Amon and has a strong desire for him to become king at any cost. A fog appears from out of nowhere and teleports everyone into the same cave that Amon was in. Amon reveals himself as Judai also regains consciousness. Amon reveals that he chose to stay behind and begins to ask the woman now identified as Echo to go with him. Echo refuses to go with him as she only wanted to see him as king. Amon begins to get more aggressive towards her and begins using her love against her by saying that Echo is needed and will be needed as tribute. Edo instinctively tries to protect Echo and challenges Amon to a duel. Unfortunately, Edo did not heed the words one of our greatest modern philosophers, Jermaine Cole, said. Don't save her. She don't wanna be saved. Edo continues to attack Amon while Amon continues to gather the pieces of Exodia. Amon then explains that in order to rule the world they are currently in, he must be able to command Exodia, and that is why he needs Echo as tribute. Amon is able to bring out Exodia, the ultimate Forbidden Lord. Edo delays the duel as long as he can, but falls 1 turn short from his win con. Amon sacrifices Echo and is able to finish the duel by unleashing Exodia. With no other options left, Edo shields Judai, Ryu, Sho, and Kronos from death. Amon continues marching onward with his new power, while Judai continues looking for Johan to prevent all of his friends' sacrifices to be in vain. Ryo sees through Judai and doesn't allow him to go through another large gate. Ryo challenges Judai to a duel using his methods to try to snap Judai back into action, as Judai now hesitates to duel. He completely dissects Judai's weak play and becomes angry at the fact that Judai is now cowering from his responsibilities. Ryu is ready to deal lethal to Judai, but is stopped by his heart palpitations. Judai leaves the group as he feels utterly useless to the cause, with Sho following him. While wandering around, Judai ends up at the same location where all of his friends died. One of the Supreme King's soldiers ambushes Judai and immediately challenges him to a duel, believing that he can eliminate Judai in his current state. Although he gains the upper hand, Judai is able to win the duel with Blade Edge. Misawa and the Amazoness were able to witness the duel and approach Judai with news. They were able to help the people in the previous dimension, and that the world they are currently in is separated into 12 different ones. An entity is trying to unite all 12 for a malicious purpose, and the only one able to do so is the same one that controlled Cobra, transported everyone originally, and helped draw out the Supreme King from Judai. Yubel. Judai wants to take responsibility for everything as he believes he created the current Yubel. Misawa talks sense into Judai by saying that you cannot solve everything with good intentions alone, and that Judai needs to be able to use both the light and dark sides of himself in order to save everyone. As Misawa and the Amazoness continue building up Judai, the gate in front of Ryu and Kronos opens with a possessed Johan seeking Judai, ready to give him love. Ryu engages Dark Johan in a duel while suffering from heart failure. Dark Johan is able to take advantage by gathering advanced crystal beasts to summon Rainbow Dark Dragon. Ryu pushes through the pain and summons Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. The onlookers are watching Ryu in his last moments, but Judai now understands that Ryu is not pushing because he's willing to die. He's pushing because he wants to live and chase moments as they happen. Ryu burns through his remaining life points and loses the duel. Yubel makes way through the gate while everyone else gathers around Ryu. Judai laments running away from his power while Ryu had embraced it. Ryu hopes that his parting gift ends with Judai victorious. As night approaches, Misawa gives one last piece of encouragement to Judai before saying his final goodbyes. Yubel ascends to the top of their tower where Amon is waiting in the throne room. Now believing he has all the power he needs, he challenges Yubel to a duel. While the two begin going at each other, Judai, Sho, and Kronos make their way into the area, mirroring the way they tried to climb to the top of the heliport against Cobra. Judai feels the presence of spirits, but snaps out of it to continue moving forward. Yubel begins to mock Amon with how weak-willed he is for sacrificing Echo for Exodia's help, with Echo being the only one to have one-sided pain and anguish. Yubel reiterates that they will take the King's Darkness from Amon and summons the card Yubel. She forces the face-down card that holds Echo's Darkness to enter battle, takes on the damage, and uses her effect to deal all damage back to Amon. It isn't until Amon feels the lethal damage where he begins to seemingly regret his decision to sacrifice Echo, and in his dying moment, screams out her name. Fuck this guy. Judai, Sho, and Kronos ascend to the top of the area where Yubel is awaiting them on their throne. Judai demands that Yubel release Johan, but Yubel wants a violent duel. To save Johan, Judai remembers the words of encouragement by Misawa, his friend sacrifices, and gets the final push from the Neospacians, Heroes, and Wing Karibo to face Yubel and accept the duel.
俺は自らの意志のもとに戦う。
Judai doesn't hesitate and immediately uses polymerization to summon his favorite hero, Flame Wingman. Neos tells Judai that he has the power to communicate with spirits, so he has to duel to reach out to Johan's soul. Yubel continues to find ways to bring out the advanced Crystal Beast. Neos keeps pushing Judai to not be afraid of causing pain to Johan, as he needs to take the risk to save him from the actual pain of being used by Yubel. Yubel's twisted way of thinking has her profess love to Judai for all the pain that she is enduring through Johan's body, and summons Rainbow Dark Dragon. Upon seeing it, Judai believes that Rainbow Dragon houses Johan's spirit. Yubel is able to destroy Neos and attempts to end the duel, but Judai uses the Flute of Summoning Karibo to stall for one more turn. The Crystal Beasts use Wing Karibo to communicate with Judai. They think Johan can be saved if the original Rainbow Dragon is summoned. After the vision, Judai is able to triple contact Fuse to summon Elemental Hero Storm Neos to destroy the field spell, Advanced Dark, to destroy all the advanced Crystal Beast monsters to free the beasts. Yubel is able to destroy Storm Neos, but its effect summons Neos back onto the field. Judai uses Fifth Hope to draw 2 cards, and is able to Destiny draw Super Poly. After acknowledging that this card walked him through hell, Judai now uses it to fuse Neos and Rainbow Dark Dragon to summon Rainbow Neos. Yubel liberates Johan as her plan has finally come into action. She used Last Trick to copy the spell card that Judai had used, and is now in possession of Super Poly. Yubel forces the duel into a no contest. She invites Judai to a final showdown where there can be no more interference and will grant Judai's wish should he win. He follows Yubel now with the relief that Johan is safe, but has to make sure that Yubel cannot hurt anyone else. While journeying to the final destination, Judai learns that everything that has happened was due to Yubel and her wish to express her twisted love to Judai. Judai endures pain that Yubel inflicts on him, but tries to force out more anger out of himself. Sho also travels to the final showdown in order to find out the result of the duel and to see Judai's fate to the end. While traveling there, he is able to encounter everyone's spirits and hears Monjome calling out for help. It is revealed that not everyone has died and that there is still a way to get them all back. Mid-2000s shonen where nobody ever really dies. Except Lamone. Fuck that guy. Judai channels the power of the Supreme King and the power of righteous darkness to go at Yubel. In a battle of toxic love and will, Yubel continues to push for the win due to her unconditional love for Judai, with a time limit of Super Poly going into her hand.
それはどうかな。
何？
ネオスペーシアンもエレメンタルヒーローもデュエルを通して出会った素晴らしい仲間たち。でも俺にはもっともっと多くの仲間たちがいる。
僕は戦闘では決して破壊されない究極完全体となる。
Judai forces out Terror Incarnate with Rainbow Neos effect and demands that everyone be returned. Yubel, however, brings forth the ultimate nightmare and engages with the Rainbow Neos to call game. Judai is able to survive another turn by activating a trap to reduce the attack points to 0, and banishes Rainbow Neos in order to draw another card. Judai is able to set up Elemental Hero Neos Return, and uses a quick play spell to return battle damage to Yubel. Yubel, after receiving more hatred and pain, tells Judai that his heart is finally able to reach hers. Yubel describes herself as only able to inflict pain, not receive it. Because of this, she could not receive any other love. Yubel then reveals a distant memory to Judai. A human Yubel is informed that one day, the light of destruction will threaten existence, with gentle darkness being the only thing that can stop it. A baby boy had been born with the heart of the Supreme King, and Yubel is tasked with protecting the boy until the heart matures and is ready to undertake the responsibility of stopping the light of destruction. Yubel does not hesitate to go under a painful process of changing her body to that of a dragon, with Judai understanding that he is witnessing his and Yubel's past lives. When Sho is finally able to see Judai, Judai tells him that he is confident that everyone will be returned to their original dimension, and apologizes for all the trouble he has caused. He tells Sho that he isn't sacrificing himself with a weak smile, and disappears after saying his catchphrase.
Gotcha.
While Yubel shows decisive action to unite all 12 dimensions with the ultimate fusion god to rule over them, Judai only expresses lament and concern. Yubel claims that by ruling all 12 dimensions, she will finally be able to claim Judai's love all to herself. To her shock, Judai agrees. Judai had responded his trap to Yubel's chain material, allowing him to choose the fusion targets for Super Poly. Judai chooses to fuse his soul with Yubel's. Although unfair, Judai accepts that he must follow through with his previous life and bring peace to Yubel in order to save all dimensions and his friends. A week has passed since the Yubel incident, with everyone in the gang gathered at Osiris Red with one meal left for Judai. Sho is resolute in thinking that Judai will return as promised. He sees a shooting star in the distance and wishes for him to come back. To his surprise, the star moves past him and crashes nearby.